record. I'm Tracy Smith. I'm the facilitator for this committee. I am a small business owner here in Northeast Portland, and welcome everyone to our, well, I guess second meeting if you were able to attend orientation. And so I'll get started and we'll move forward with introductions. Donnie, I'll start with you as the chair.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. For everybody that doesn't know me, my name is Donnie Callahan. I'm with Gerlach Towing and Heavy Haul here in Portland. I'm the chair of this committee. Previous experiences, I'm past president of the Oregon Tow Truck Association. I'm on multiple motor carrier committees and a lot of TIM programs. So welcome and thank you.
Rich, welcome. Rich Helzer. Rich, we just need
There
you
we
to
go.
Okay.
Yeah, my had problems with the computer today, so I had to switch to the phone. And the video makes it all pause out. So I'm here today. It's I was on the towing board of review previously. And then I work in maintenance management for the state of Oregon.
All right, and so I'll just go around. Let's see, Kim, I see you on the phone. If you could give your last name and your affiliation, please.
Kim Carnes with Gerlach Towing.
Welcome. And Devin?
I'm Devin Edwards with Speeds Towing.
Camarina?
I'm Camarina Gagban. I am today's note taker and I support Tracy.
Amelia?
Hello, I'm Amelia Brown and I am the representative for the Portland Police Bureau.
Clark?
Hi, everybody. Clark, 21st Century Towing.
Mark?
Mark Williams, Bureau of Transportation, and I support Timothy Moore.
All right, and we have another Mark as well on.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm with Retriever Towing.
And Tim?
Hey all, I'm Tim. I'm the towing coordinator for the city of Portland.
All right, I see Northwest Towing. I see the name Paul, but I see two faces. So if you could both introduce yourself.
Paul Walters, Northwestern Towing.
James Jerome, Northwestern Towing.
Garrett?
Hi, I'm Garrett Vanderstand and I manage Multnomah County's fleet.
And is it I may not be pronouncing your name correct.
It's A. Young Lee. I'm one of the three public representatives.
All right, thank you. Scott?
Yes, I'm one of the other public representatives.
Francis?
Hi, I'm Francis. I'm with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office.
Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lee. I'm with Elite Towing and Recovery.
And Todd?
I'm Todd DeWeese. I'm Assistant Operations Manager with BOEC. We dispatch police in the Multnomah County.
Michael?
Michael Coe, Retriever Towing.
All right, and there's a caller, but there's no identifying information. And I can't see, there's not, the last four digits of the phone number are not listed. If you could come off mute, caller, and introduce yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Donald Hunter. I am with the Parking Enforcement Division, City of Portland. I've been in parking enforcement for 30 years.
All right, can you spell your last name, please?
Hunter.
Thank you. All right, let's see, Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you for announcements.
Thank you. So welcome, everyone. This is our first official public meeting. As Tracy mentioned, we had the orientation meeting prior to this one where we didn't really take any public or make any public recommendations. It was really just to get all the members kind of familiar with the new process. As most of you already know, this committee takes the place of the old Towing Advisory Board of Review. All of these changes with the city committees are pursuant a council resolution that's mandated and I should say managed by the Office of Civic and Community Life. So in other words, every bureau has committees, every committee pretty much operates the same way. And that is one of the reasons why we had to change the format of not only this meeting, but for the private for hire transportation committee as well. As part of being a committee member, there's a required test because you're considered kind of a public employee in a sense, doing this type of committee work. That test link should have gone out to all of you. If you have not received that test link for that required training, please shoot me an email and we will make sure that our administrator gets you signed up in the system. Or if you're having problems with that link to that required testing, let me know again, shoot me an email, or you can shoot Tracy an email, but either way, we will get you connected to the right person that can get you into the system. Only the appointed committee members are required to take the testing. There are a lot of folks here that are probably going to attend every meeting. You're probably going to see all the emails that pop out for the committee distribution list, but it's only the appointed members that are really required to take the test. But hey, if you are attending the meetings and you want to be familiar with the public committee or advisory body process, I encourage you to take the test as well. No harm, just let me know and we'll get a link sent out to you. And that is really all I have regarding the training. And again, welcome to the first meeting. Looking forward to talking about a lot of things that I think a lot of you have waited a long time to talk about. So we're all ears.
All right, Donnie, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so the first subject on the agenda is we got 10 minutes. We'd like to hear from Devin Edwards. He submitted a topic on hazard tows requiring releases.
So Donnie, we have public comment, 6 minutes for public comment next.
Oh, I apologize. So let's go ahead with the 6 minutes of public comments.
If anyone has wants to make public comment, if you could please use the raise your hand feature that's located under reactions, and then I'll call on you. All right, Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul with Northwestern Towing. October 20th in the early hours of the morning, a 21 Freightliner Cascadia jackknifed in the tunnel on 26, blocking all lanes of traffic. Auto Return went through their entire Class C rotation and could not locate a company to assist with unblocking the freeway. At 3:30 a.m., the department reached out to us directly as they exhausted all other resources. A driver from our side went out at 4:00 a.m. and had the scene cleared not long after. This is just one of the many examples I have noticed as of late. Previously, the city had 2 large companies on rotation with a minimum of 5 Class C trucks each. We lost one company a couple years back that reduced the number to about half a dozen Class C trucks. This reduction, along with our city's rapid growth, has created a void that needs to be addressed. Speeds Towing joined a while back, bringing on another Class C truck. I have noticed that Speeds helped out a great deal in covering some of the workload, but it still isn't enough. We have 2 companies with equipment, personnel, talent that is not being utilized to its fullest potential. Northwestern Towing and Elite Towing both have trucks that are both on light and medium rotation, but are not on a Class C rotation. Northwestern Towing has half a dozen heavy trucks that are not helping the city of Portland as much as they could be. Elite Towing is starting to build their fleet and has the potential to help alleviate the burden as well. By adding 2 companies to Class C rotation, we could double the current number of trucks the city has at its disposal. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anyone else have public comment? Mark?
Yeah, there's a couple of things going on. So kind of wrote this up a little bit, so it'd be a little bit smoother, but basically the city of Portland failed to be a reliable partner for the Portland City Towing contract. Contract is 9 years old, it's out of date, not keeping up with technology or present challenges. It's been 4.5 years since the last rate increase, and that increase had to be fought and lobbied for. Every cost for every tower has increased since 2018 to 2023. Here are some examples. Minimum wage has increased $3.50 per hour, but to be competitive during a period when it's hard to find recruit employees, most towers have had to increase driver minimum wages 30 to 40%. Leases have increased 20 to 30%. In 2018, gas in Oregon was $2.60 per gallon. Diesel today is almost $6. City added a fuel surcharge of $6 when it was added on 3/22 when fuel was $4.50 per gallon. DEF is almost twice the cost it was in 2018. A 55-gallon drum in 2018 was $99. It's now $175. Insurance is going up across country for most towers as there is a lack of underwriters wanting to write us. Even with a good loss record, every tower is seeing a gain of 20 to 40% year to year. New trucks cost $28,000 more than the same truck in 2018. This includes new taxes that did not exist in 2018, CAT tax, privilege tax, and others. Warranty maintenance packages have increased 26%. Because of the imposed taxes and increased regulatory burdens, every supplier vendor has increased their rates, thus passing it on to the customer, us. The city cost recovery fee increased from 20 to 38 in 2018 for the purpose of assisting with motorhome disposal, but is only applicable to police calls, even though it is charged on PPIs as well. But I know of no tower uses the program because it is too costly to use. Lien process fees have increased since the new law came out. Crime has increased substantially, resulting in extra preventative cost burdens and post-incident costs to the tower. With the implementation of ARES, the city shifted many of the tow desk responsibilities on the towers without any increase, with an increase for labor costs. Results, we had to add people to the service contract. When the contract started in 2001, there were 22 towers. Now there are 5. Portland has invited other towers that previously failed to qualify for requirements in the contract. By not increasing the rates annually, it impairs towers' ability to recruit qualified drivers, which hurts ETAs for police calls. It also causes towers to evaluate the financial cost benefit of participating on the police contract. On average, at the $133 base towing rate, towers are operating police tows at a loss.
Mark, could you please submit your comments via email?
Yeah. Who would I send them to?
You can send them to me, Tracy, TRACY @enhance, INHANCE.biz. Tracy @enhance.biz. And I'll make sure the chair and vice chair and other committee PBOP individuals get it.
Okay, I will do that.
All right, Donnie, we are at time, and so I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move forward on to our first subject here with Devin. Wants to talk about hazard tows requiring releases.
Hey, Donnie, it looks like Mark Williams is next on the agenda.
I'm muted, I'm sorry. We will have Tim who will give PBOT program updates.
Okay. I don't have that on my agenda, but go ahead.
Hey guys, and thanks Donnie, thanks Clark or Devin. I guess Devin, you got that. Couple quick updates. I want to keep this quick so we can move on to the next item. We have the RFP and contract. Mark Griggs brought up some good points, and it's in the works. We're working on a new contract document. We have a draft ready and in the hands of the review team. We have the RFP drafted as well, so we're looking forward to getting that out to the towers. That will not likely be coming. Well, I'm not going to say not likely. It won't be coming out until after the election, so that's when we can anticipate seeing that. And I just want to reiterate what we've said in the past, but we appreciate all your patience, and we know that it's been there have been struggles, and I'm really glad that we have this committee to hear some of the issues you guys are having and get those out and hear some recommendations. The next item I just want to touch base on is the Street Services Coordination Center. So this is an effort. This is a Mayor of Portland has committed a whole bucket of money. It's a collaboration between the city of Portland and the county, Multnomah County, in an effort to broadly to address houselessness and homelessness in the city. How it impacts the towing industry is that, as you all probably are aware, there's a lot of our houseless and transitional community living in vehicles or utilizing vehicles in some way for storage on our public right of way. What the city is doing is, again, partnering with our other local agencies, including Multnomah County, and working on getting those people who are living in these places sheltered, and of course partnering with our towers to remove the vehicles once we've helped move those communities out of the right of way. This is challenging work. There's a lot of it to be done, and I just want to say thank you for all the efforts being put into that, and also note that it is a strain on our towing resources. If I said it's a lot of work, there's a lot of requests coming in, and so that does impact service. And so when we're hearing from some of our other agencies, police, tow by the hour work for maintenance and water bureau, those types of items sometimes fall to the wayside because we have a ton of our service providers out at a site working with the city to help these folks who are, like I said, in experiencing houselessness, among other issues. So it is a complicated and messy thing, and we appreciate all the work that's going into it. The last thing on my list is talking about the exemption report and exemptions, and more broadly, just sort of the common issues that we're seeing. And so I want to highlight a couple of those. And first note that the exemption report is something that comes from auto return. So towers and agency partners should be able to review that. So I encourage you all to take a look at that when it comes in. If you have any questions about it, please reach out. I think everyone here should have my contact to be able to get a hold of me. If you don't and want it, please let me know. I'm happy to drop it in the chat or provide it at some other time. But the common items that we run into are like late check-ins. Sometimes we're seeing missed VIN holds and other holds not being correctly captured or acted on. So I just want to encourage you guys again to review that report. For our part, we're going to try and be a little bit better about sending out notifications and saying, hey, we're seeing these things on the report. So you might start seeing something on a weekly or bi-weekly basis notifying you. And then regarding VIN holds for PPI towers, I also want to kind of put out there that we want to make sure that VIN holds are being checked and recognized, and when they are coming in, the tower is doing their due diligence. So in that effort, the PPI towers should be seeing something come out of our office, just reminding them that it's important to do the VIN checks. PPI tows with auto return for the PPI towers probably definitely know this, but it's a bit of a strange interface. So there are some challenges there. We need to make sure, we're going to ask you to confirm email addresses, because the way we notify you of a VIN hold is through an email. And so we want to make sure that we're sending those emails to the right place, or that Portland police are sending those emails to the right place and they're getting to the right people so that we don't have issues where we're releasing vehicles that have holds on them. And then the very, very last thing I want to touch base on is that no one else already talked about, is, sorry, just checking out my notes. I actually think that's about it.
Complaints, Tim? Complaints?
Oh, yeah, so yeah, thank you, Sheila. The last thing I wanted to bring up was complaints. So as you guys probably, most of you know, the towing folks definitely know, our department receives complaints from the public. We have an obligation to investigate those complaints, and as part of that, we solicit information from the towers. Now this might be on PPI tows or contract tows. When we solicit that information, we need to make sure that we're getting responses in a timely manner. It is written into the contract and the city code that we can, or basically, if we don't receive a response within a timely manner, we are in essence obligated to make a determination without the response. And what that often means is that we're going to order a refund, because the only side of the story we have is the complainant's side. So if the complainant says there weren't signs and we don't get a response, that means we're going to overturn the tow. And best case scenario, it goes to a code hearing, you fight it, and you end up not having to refund it, but you end up wasting a bunch of time. So much better scenario is getting those emails, making sure we know who to contact. So if we're reaching out to the wrong people, let us know. If there's different people, we'll happily include multiple people when we reach out for that information. But it's our obligation to the public to make sure that we're responding to these complaints in a timely manner. We've not always been good about it in the past, and you probably all have had experience with that. And we're going to update some of our policies about how we receive those complaints moving forward. But I do just want to put out there that it is very important. It is a high priority for us, and we want to make sure that everyone is compliant, and that when there's not compliance, there's often the consequence of getting a negative order because we didn't hear anything from you and we have no information to back up your side of things. So that's all I have. I really appreciate all your time, and I'm just going to turn my mic off and pass it back to Donnie.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, so I apologize. I kind of missed the agenda here. I didn't mean to skip anybody. All right, so now we are actually on. Let's talk about the hazard tows requiring releases, Devin.
All right, it's pretty simple. I'm Devin Edwards, Speeds Towing. I am the newest committee member. And Mark, I will need that test, so I'll get with you later. Hazards, as the towers know, require a release every time it's called in as a hazard. The owner of the vehicle has to go and get a release from the police department in order to have the vehicle released. And I'm concerned that not all the people ordering tows understand that the car might be in a hazardous position, so they call it a hazard. And then it's got ramifications of needing to get a release, when really it's just, if it's a private not-for-profit, it's an accident. Somebody got in an accident and it's in a hazardous position, and the officer says, hey, it's a hazard. All of a sudden that makes the customer have to get you a release. And when we show up and the customer says, hey, can you take my car to the body shop? We have to tell them, no, I can't take your car to the body shop, because you have to get a release first from the police department before we can take it to the body shop. And it causes some citizens some distress, because they don't understand, why do I need to go get a release? And it's just an error. It's just a mistake, but I think that just needs to be some education on the people that are ordering the tows of what to call them at the time of the tow.
At this point, this topic submission has been considered for consideration. What that means is the committee can discuss this issue. And if the committee would like to vote on, after discussion, the committee, you may decide that you want to discuss and take action on this in the next meeting. But at this time, it is for committee members only to have discussion and to ask Devin questions. Mark?
I don't know who can answer this question, if it's Amelia or maybe Tim, but maybe it's a clarification question. Is this a policy issue with the Portland Police, or I don't think this language specifically is outlined in the contract, but Amelia or Timothy, can you respond to that?
Well, Amelia, go ahead.
Okay, well, I was going to say, it has been actually several years since we did any training with the officers on how to order hazard tows. So that definitely needs to come back up again, especially since we pretty much have a brand new force with all these new officers. So that definitely needs to be addressed, and I will take that to my manager for sure. So we can get that, and possibly to our assistant chief, who can get that out to our training division, and hopefully get that across to all the officers ordering tows, because I think there is that whole, as Devin was saying, like it's a hazardous position. So it's a hazard that makes it, a hazard tow. And no, it's not. It's a private tow. It's an elsewhere tow. It's anything but a hazard. It's blocking tow. But I think that training needs to be addressed for sure, and needs to be implemented. And I will definitely get in touch with my manager for that. Right.
So this to me, Donnie, Mr. Chair, feels more like an action item for Portland Police to follow up with the committee at a later time regarding the training. I don't see this as needing to be a formal recommendation to the director.
Yes, I agree. I think this is just an educational thing, so it's just making an action item. Anybody else have any questions on this subject?
Aside from it being an educational issue, is there a mechanism when it happens to clarify a hazard tow on site? Is there somebody that could say that something that the training hasn't been followed? Because the circumstance will probably continue to exist even if the training improves.
So Scott, I think I can kind of answer your question. There's the person on site is going to be the person who kind of makes the mistake in the first place. What I can see happening is that if we catch it or we see that issue, if we're notified by either the tower or auto records, police auto records, we can go in and change that reason, which would delete the hold on the vehicle. The other thing I wanted to kind of bring up is potentially bringing Todd DeWeese in as well as a resource with BOEC, and maybe being able to provide BOEC staff with some of the, maybe training materials that Amelia has access to, so that they're better aware of what constitutes a hazard. And so they can maybe, ask the officer the questions. So, when we do have high turnover with police, maybe we have some institutional knowledge with BOEC, who's requesting, who's interacting with the police. So we can use, kind of tap in multiple resources, but yeah.
Garrett?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, when it comes to the actual application itself, is there any way has anybody looked at, or could it be considered to look at, how to make it clear in terms of when they're actually doing the dispatch, so that when those hazard tows are selected, it's more clearly called out what that means and what that impact is within the tool itself?
We have explored options and are continuing to explore the options of how to kind of flag those items. We've looked at the, potentially having a pop-up, if you select certain sort of problematic or reason codes with implications, having some kind of pop-up or something that would sort of notify people. That being said, we also know that there's a habit of, you're in the middle of something, you're in a hurry and trying to get, assistance to a car crash, an accident scene. You may just click OK when that pop-up comes up. So, but Garrett, to answer your question, yes, we are considering that, looking into it. And hopefully we see some steps in the right direction sooner rather than later.
Tim, you also had your hand raised. Do you have comments?
I was able to get all of it out. Thank you.
All right. Donnie, turning it back over. Oh, Garrett is, there's a light in the back, so your hand's not up. Donnie, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so let's make this an action item and let's move on to the next. The next submission we have is an annual rate review. This was submitted by Mike Coe from Retriever Towing. Mike, would you like to give us an idea?
Mark kind of stated our position, but the main thing that I want to encourage people to consider is that just because we're under contract, like it said, we've gone 9 years under the existing contract. Yes, there's been some extensions, but those extensions haven't addressed the rate. We're 4.5 years since the last rate increase, and frankly, most of the towers are getting frustrated with the city's lack of leadership in treating us like a valued a vendor. So this needs to get some attention. We're all operating these city tows at a loss. Last year we did sweeps, and with the tickets and the city fees and stuff like that placed on a vehicle, a single vehicle in a sweeps tow, we're charging $133, no storage, no gate fee, so $133. And the city, with what they're charging us and charging the citizen, is charging north of $150. So we're having more regulatory with both the state and the city compliance. Now you're addressing the threat of fines for things, but we don't have any more money to be able to afford it. So I encourage all the other towers to certainly put in their 2 cents, but we keep getting this. It's coming. It's going to happen. But we're also supposed to have a contract a long time ago. So I really don't see the city acting in good faith. Thanks, Donnie.
Thanks. Is there anybody else out there that wants to comment?
Clark?
Hey everybody, Clark, 21st Century Towing. I've been an industry rep. This is like my 15th. And this topic comes up with every tower and every time we have a discussion, that we really want to know when the raise is going to come, what the raise is going to be, so we can adequately staff our offices and go from there. So it's a big burden on all the towers. And I know I've talked to Tim multiple times, and it's the new contract's coming, it's coming, but we're still surviving on 4.5 years without another dollar from the city. So I know we've had raises in the past before a new contract was written. I know the old toll board had permission to do that. I haven't read the bylaws on this one, but I think if we get a vote, we should be able to push this through, at least get the towers some relief before the new contract gets written. Thank you.
Other comments? Mike?
I had a question. Go ahead, Mike.
There we go. Sorry, couldn't figure out my phone. I just wanted to comment also, and I'm sorry I'm late to the meeting. The cost of us doing business has increased since December of 2019 by leaps and bounds. We as towers, I have been with the city of Portland. I managed the city of Portland's tow desk for many years before Gerlach got it. I've been with Speeds for a long time. I'm now here with Newhouse. But just the labor expense, our lease expense, the opportunity to buy a truck, if you can get parts for a truck, have gone up substantially. I don't think that we are looking to pad our pockets. What we're looking to is that we are trying to keep our employees in a position where they can earn a decent living, where they can, put food on the table and things like that. And we are servicing the city by, if you were out, and I know you're all out there and you see the derelict vehicles that we're having to deal with all the time that have been destroyed, have been, they're filled with trash. These are all things that weren't part of our 9 years ago part of the issue. But I know now between Speeds and Newhouse, we have 2 huge dumpsters that we have to have on a monthly basis just to clean cars out of drug paraphernalia, garbage, human feces, you name it. And these are all added expenses that we've had to take on that I don't think anybody in the city or on this contract could have foreseen 9 years ago. And we haven't been pushy about this, but it comes down to, we need some help. Because we have become not only your towers, but your garbage men also. And we really need to see an increase. Thank you.
Scott, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Tim or Mark could shed any light on this. So I think the last time we did rate adjustments, it was based on the rate analysis. Are we following and layering on top of that? Because I think that's where the industry providing feedback on where there are hard costs and where there are variable costs. I think we started to make a structure for that going into like the updated RFP and rates. And that might at least allow for better communication between what are the real drivers of costs and what the rate should be.
I'll be more than happy to respond to that. So we've done 2 rate analysis since the last one that I think most of you recall. That was some time ago, and that was back when, I think someone mentioned earlier, that was back when we had that last increase, and that was back when we were over at the Portland building in the auditorium. There's been 2 separate rate analyses since then. We have a pretty good idea where the market is, but going forward, before we establish the new rates for the new contract, we're going to do another brief rate analysis just to kind of see or gauge if we're still in the ballpark of where we think we ought to be. Unfortunately, Tim and I don't get to make all the decisions. If the decision was solely in our hands, I think a lot of things would have been done a little bit sooner. One of the reasons that we didn't have this particular committee meeting, we didn't kick off the new committee earlier, was because I had hoped that at the first meeting I was going to be handing out a copy of the proposed RFP, not necessarily the contract. We can't show that, but hey, here's the RFP, any thoughts, any things you guys want to consider, that kind of thing. And you guys would be making recommendations on that as well. The timing didn't align as I wanted it to, so we decided let's go ahead and let's get the first meeting going. So my suggestion for this committee, we hear you. I've heard a lot of this before. Again, I wish it was in my hands, but it's not 100% in my hands. But as Patrick was before Tim and as Tim is now, trust me, guys, we are working on this. I can't talk about a whole lot of this right now, what we are considering or what we may propose. I can't say that, but I can tell you that we're working on it. We hear you. You're not going to get an argument out of me. But it would be helpful if this committee also pushed forward a formal recommendation on where they think the rates should be. I think that would be helpful.
All right, and I want to remind everyone that the comments on the topic submission are for committee members, but I'm still learning the names. So I called on Mike. So Mark, I'm going to call on you, but I will going forward, this topic submission feedback session is for committee members. So Mark?
That's all right. I can hold off on that one. It was not that big of a question.
Nope,
so.
nope, go ahead, because I want to have due process here.
Well, what I noticed is because we also deal with Vancouver, so we tow in Washington as well as Oregon. And Washington, I'm not exactly sure of their process, so please don't get me wrong, because I'm not intimate with their details as far as that goes, but they are very, very organized as far as every October 1, there is a rate change. And I say rate change because it doesn't always go up. They base theirs off of the, what is it, the index of, you know, how much everything went up or went down. And then they adjust their towing rates for the whole state based off of that, the cost of living. And just for instance, this last time, the cost of living increase that we got out there was around $80 a tow. That's just the base rate that it went up. So because of the cost of living changed so much. And I was just curious, can the city put that into the contract or into anywhere that there is every year at a certain time, it is reviewed and then either adjusted?
I can, again, I'd be more than happy to respond to that. So I can tell you that there is similar language in the proposed contract that we have right now. Doesn't have any numbers on it, but there is similar language that talks about the process of evaluating this annually and make the adjustment accordingly. We have included that.
Any additional comments from committee members? Donnie, how would you like to proceed with this particular action item or topic submission?
How about we table this? I think this needs to be an ongoing discussion and that we table this for the next meeting.
All right. Okay, we move on to the next topic submission.
The next one we have in line is dispatch fees, presented by Devin.
Afternoon again, everybody. You guys know it got mentioned before, we've gone to AR and the amount of labor on the towers end, and I'm going to assume on the city of Portland's end has gone up. The amount of data we've got to put in to auto return versus what used to happen is considerable. I feel like the officers are also having to put more information into auto return, and there has been no change in the dispatch fee, either something that the tower would get, whether they get $5 for the dispatch fee for doing the labor, or whether there's a decrease in the dispatch fee, or maybe auto return does the data input themselves as part of the contract. But it just feels like there was a huge change in the way that the tower had to do the data entry, and there was no change in our contract.
Any thoughts on that, Tim?
I don't think that we've considered sort of allocating parts of the dispatch fee for tower labor. As Mark said, Mark Williams, a rate increase is front and center in our minds, and when we're working on the contract and when we're speaking with our management team and our leadership team, those are the things that we're really pushing. So I certainly hear you. Again, want to pair what Mark said. We know that there have been cost of living increases. We know that there are certain changes in the industry that have impacted what it means to tow a vehicle, or what a vehicle means. You know, like you said, boats and RVs weren't the kind of problem 10 years ago that they are now. That's a reality. And you know, I think it's very valuable to talk about how we can get appropriate compensation to our towing partners. It's very important. You provide a invaluable service to the city, and without you, our roads are clogged and our right of way is blocked. So I again want to go back to something Mark Williams said. I hope this committee can work towards a recommendation. And so I think that this issue kind of goes back to the last issue of a rate increase and how that rate increase might be implemented. So Mark Griggs mentioned the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. I think that's a really valuable metric. There's a lot of things that we can do. There's things that we're considering, and there's things maybe we aren't considering that you guys will come up with that we haven't even thought of. So I think this is a useful conversation, a useful suggestion, and I appreciate hearing that, you know, not really being around when Todesk was the software of choice. I don't really fully understand what the division of labor was between Todesk, the tower, the officer, and so forth. So for me, it's always been auto return, and so understanding that is helpful. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a recommendation for rates from this committee. I'm excited for that.
Mark?
Just a suggestion, Mr. Chair. I think that this again fits kind of in that theme of rates. Again, I would just, for the record, suggest that this committee wrap that into a proposal, get this moved to beyond the consideration stage, what we're in right now, into an action item stage, and make a recommendation. A recommendation coming from this group that has all the stakeholders represented here, I think carries a little bit of weight. And we also have public representation as well. So again, I'd wrap all those financial items into a package, into a recommendation for the director.
Just had a quick question for Devin. Devin, is your main focus here on the fee itself, or the extra work that you feel like?
Well, it's the work, really. You know, my people have, you know, we've had to hire extra people, but I was actually very curious. I don't know if Mark knows this answer or not, but the people that order the tow, is there more labor on that end now than used to be? Because it felt like it used to be more of just a phone call to Todesk kind of deal. And then Todesk did a lot of the work. And now it doesn't feel that way. But I don't see that side of it.
Tim, you might be able to respond to that better than I can. I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, we've got Francis in the room. We've got, I know we had, I think Scott in the room. Oh, you guys deal with this and have seen both sides of it, Todesk and auto return. What is your opinion, Francis?
My opinion is what my deputies' opinions are. And they do feel that there is at times more labor involved with requesting a tow than how it was through Todesk. That seems to be the general consensus that I have received from the majority of the deputies. And depending on the situation, if we have a 3-car accident on I-84, in the old days, we'd call Todesk, we'd tell them it's 3 cars, what kind of cars, and that everything would then get done. Where now we're doing it through Service Desk. Service Desk is then having to enter each one of those separately into auto return. At least it appears that way. And it's taking longer to get a vehicle response to unblock a blocked highway. And so it does seem like it is taking longer.
Thank you. I don't know, Todd DeWeese, do you have any comment on this with BOEC and your guys' experience?
Yeah, it's kind of like Francis just said, you know, we used to be able to do things through our CAD system. It was pretty quick and easy, you know. It isn't a whole lot different, you know, more difficult to go to a different computer to do this, but I think there is a bit more work involved in putting it all in there.
I don't know what I'm sorry, I'm speaking without raising my hand. Forgive me.
CAD is our computer aided dispatch. It's our computer that we use for dispatch for police, fire, and medical.
All right, Scott, your hand is up.
So I just had a question. So Mark, when you were looking for feedback, would it make sense to like at least list all of the current rates? And then in some of these, it sounds like the activity is changing and some of it is driven by underlying expense. Does it make sense to, like, for the things that Devin is calling out, to just say these are the different components of the charges that would change? I mean, this is one that maybe the administrative activity has changed, and so this is the component charge, and then you could start at least having better dialogue on how much and what the drivers are, which I think, since the gap in rate changes, like what the drivers are is probably a larger conversation that's needed.
I mean, I think that's a good approach. I mean, we can certainly pull the current rates and start from that as a, you know, where we are today as a guide, and then and really just kind of edit that particular sheet and include some of the items that were introduced that Devin just called out that aren't identified anywhere in the current rate sheet. So however the committee would like to approach this, we're here to support that effort. I do want to share a little bit of history about, you know, why all these changes with, you know, dispatch systems. The city, or PBOT in general, is changing all legacy systems. What we've gone away from are systems that are supported by a single individual into systems that are supported by, you know, I guess a larger collaboration of individuals. It wasn't just in regulatory, it's happening in parking enforcement, it's happening across the board. All the legacy systems are getting swapped out, and in many cases to cloud-based systems, because internally we just don't have the resources to support them. The tow desk software that obviously was used back in the day, I mean, that was developed in-house by a single individual. And if something were to happen to that person, there was no one to support that application. That is the reason that we had to make the switch. And the city's applied that, I want to say PBOT has applied those changes throughout the Bureau. We're not the only ones who've done that, but I just wanted to share that little bit of history as to why we had to make that change. And one last comment, if I could, Mr. Chair, for Todd. Todd, you know, we developed an API for the Portland Police CAD system, and I'm wondering if maybe you can leverage some of that technology with your CAD system. I don't know, I'm not a real tech guy, but it's something we could talk about offline, see if it's something we can consider.
Sure.
Anybody else?
So this became a question of cost and prices, and my real concern was not originally that. It was that the officers have to do more work and that the towers have to do more work. I wasn't looking for compensation. I was looking for a change in how it was done. In that, could there possibly be, I mean, again, I don't know exactly how the officers used to request a tow it through a CAD system or something, but they had direct communication with a person at the dispatch service. It feels like if the dispatch service had a person on duty, not, you know, the officer could communicate with them, and that person would input all the data that the officer now has to input. They could do that for the officer. The officer would just say, I've got 3 cars in an accident at what you know, whatever and whatever. It's a blue Honda, here's the plate, the green Dodge, here's a plate, you know. and be done and go out and do their business and not be tied up. And same thing on the tower side, that right now, I have to accept all three and then turn one back. Where if I actually talk to somebody, talk to an actual person, I can say, I can take two of the three. They say, okay, here's two, move on to the next one. And there isn't since there's no person to talk to, we can't do it that way. And so my goal wasn't to increase a fee somewhere. My goal was to change how it got done. And I don't know if that would ever happen, but that would be my goal, is to have them insert a person between us, not just a computer screen.
So here's my thought. Because this started out talking about fees, which I think fees definitely need to be discussed, but moved up into the upper subject. I think this particular topic we should drop. I think this is a bigger conversation, and I think that somebody like yourself or somebody needs to submit a new topic and probably have a bigger discussion about the auto return system. It sounds like there's a lot of issues, whether it's agencies, towers, whoever is involved. My recommendation is that somebody resubmit for a future meeting topic. Otherwise, I think this particular one we should drop.
I can also suggest that, Tracy, this could be an action item for me. I'm happy to, approach auto return and discuss options. Like, Devin, I think you hit the nail on the head. They have a methodology and we bought into it. And it sounds like it's causing some delays. That being said, like I said, we bought into their methodology, so they might not change for us and they might not have an option for us, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So I'm happy to go to our service, our dispatch contractor and see what solutions we can come up with. I think Mark is right. We have API options we can potentially use for both, certainly for the police side of things. And I don't know if there's ways we can, I know a lot of you guys use TOPS. I know there's a couple other programs out there that you guys use. Maybe there's a way we can incorporate those. So yeah, I want to make sure that we track this and note that it is causing delays, not only on the tower's end, but also on our officers on the street.
All right, Tim, Camarina will capture this as an action item and will follow up with you on this.
Perfect.
All right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Donnie, it seems we can move to the next one.
Okay, the next one again is from Devin Edwards on a 20-minute ETA.
Me again. I think we all understand traffic in Portland is not getting better over the years. The 20-minute response time seems less doable every day. And again, if we had somebody to talk to and we said, hey, we can be there in 25 or 30, maybe Todesk says, okay, or auto return now. But what happens is we end up saying, okay, I can't make it in 20, I'm just gonna pass. Well, I've got a few minutes to make that decision. So now we've added that time onto the ETA. Then it goes to the next tower, and now it goes to Clark. And Clark looks at it, well, let's Clark goes, golly, it's gonna take me 22 minutes to get there. I'm not gonna make it in 20. So I'm gonna pass, and it takes him 2 or 3 minutes to make that decision. And then it goes over to Mike Retriever, and then it goes to Mike Porter. And by that time, we've used up 10 more minutes or 12 more minutes anyway. And if I just had 30 minutes to start with, I'd have taken the call and we'd have been done and we'd be on our way instead of it going through. And I don't know exactly the number, but it feels like 30 feels like a number that we could probably all meet a much more often. And I know we're not getting penalized. I mean, I don't think anybody's gotten a fine for being late, but I hate taking a tow and telling you I'm going to be there in 20 minutes when I don't know darn well that I'm not going to be there in 20 minutes. So I instruct my people to say, can't be there in 20, we pass, goes on to the next one. So I'd like to increase our time to 30 minutes.
Anybody else have a comment or a question? Does anybody on the board want to make a motion to move forward for consideration on this?
So Donnie, this would move forward to an action item. It's in consideration now. And the action item would be taking a vote in the next meeting.
Okay. Does anybody want to take this on as an action?
Rich, are you making a motion?
No, I actually did have a question or comment, I suppose.
Go ahead.
So just from the public standpoint, is the request just to go to 30 minutes, or is there a feedback mechanism so he could say, hey, he could respond that he could be there in 25 or 30. So before it gets passed to the other towers, they have an opportunity to basically know that. So if they can't meet 20 either, they're not likely to hit the button. Because like he said, from the customer perspective, the clock has already started from the time the initial request goes out. So is it 30 minutes or is it just a feedback where they could give an affirmative feedback that can't do 20, but I can do 28, and it still might be the best answer? So could that be a potential as opposed to just blanket raising it to 30?
Personally, I don't know if auto return has that mechanism in place to be able to do that, but so I don't know. I mean, I'd be okay with that, but I don't know if they have that option.
So auto return does have that option. When you guys are in the dispatch module, there's an option for adding notes. And so auto return staff and our staff have tried to work together to encourage towers to, if they're not able to meet a 20-minute ETA, to accept a call as the next person in the as the next tower in the rotation, while including a note, so that, like I said, there's a note, and I'm saying this after hearing your valuable input on the labor it takes to deal with these calls. So, grain of salt and all, but there is an option in there to put in a note. So we've been.
Did he just freeze?
I think so.
Okay.
Mark, do you have additional comments to Tim's comments?
No, I don't know where he was going. I was just going to say, I mean, I know that time in auto return can be adjusted, and we just say up to 20 minutes or up to 30 minutes if that's the direction that the committee goes. But and then if you can get there sooner, great. But I think we can cap it or max it, if you will, at the 30-minute target. I don't think that's a big deal in auto return. But I know that we should probably definitely make sure our agency partners get an opportunity to weigh in, that those that are affected by this, and just a reminder for everyone, just as a part of the process. We do take public comment before making a formal recommendation at the other meeting, so that is a good opportunity for other agency stakeholders to weigh in and share their thoughts with the committee.
And Jeff, you had wrote some comments in the chat. If you could share your comments that you put in the chat, just to make sure all committee members heard your comments.
Sure. This is Jeff from ODOT. I just asked the question is if all agencies, kind of what Mark just alluded to, our agency is going to have input on that, because obviously ODOT has input onto state highways and the response times of the towers. So I would just hope that, like you said, it would be up for discussion, because we would have to evaluate on our end and look what kind of impact that'll have on us and how we would roll that out to our crews.
All right, so Donnie, do you want, so we originally, you had a request to see if there was a motion on this topic submission. Is that how you would like to continue to proceed?
I'm sorry, one more time.
You originally asked if someone wanted to make a motion on this topic submission so that in the next meeting, it would be an action item. And as Mark stated, we would take public comment whenever there's an action item.
Yeah, does anybody out there want to make a motion?
And again, the motion can only come from a committee member. Devin, you raised your hand.
Yes, I would like to make this an action item for next meeting.
Okay, so Devin has motion. Can someone second his motion?
Clark Tenney, 21st Century Second.
All right. And now, Donnie, the committee members will take a vote.
So this is kind of goofy to do online. So all four say aye, but I don't know how you do that on the internet. So
Just ask if anyone opposes. It's easier to take and to count the oppositions. If
all right, so
go ahead.
is there anybody that opposes this action? So it sounds like this passes and we'll move it to the next meeting.
All right, Donnie, we're down to the last topic submission, expedited tows.
Okay, expedited tows, once again, presented by Devin Edwards.
There we go. All right, so the term expedite's used sometimes in tows. The police have a great facility where they train their drivers how to drive. We don't have such a thing. And when we're asked to expedite, sometimes bad things can happen. We're not trained how to drive on the shoulder. We're not given any special, any training or any, we don't, we're not allowed to disobey traffic laws or anything like that. And basically, I'd like to have that term removed from usage because basically when you ask us to go do a tow, we go as quickly as we safely can. We don't stop and get donuts. We don't stop and get a cup of coffee. We go as quickly as we can safely. And if there's an actual need to expedite and there's an officer that wants to meet us on an on-ramp and escort us through traffic, to get people to move out of the way, I am all for that. But to expect us to try to get through a traffic jam, a stop traffic by whatever means, there's really nothing we can do legally. We aren't allowed to use our lights. We're not supposed to honk our horns. There's not much we can do. So it doesn't really, that word just causes stress with anybody that's ever used it. So I'd like it removed from what we use.
Devin, are you getting this from multiple agencies or?
To be honest, I don't know which agencies are using the word expedite. I'm going to assume it's Portland Police, but it's not like it's not parking enforcement asking for an expedite. Rarely. We get it if sometimes if somebody's blocking the Max line, we'll get one that says expedite. And it's like, I get it. I understand you want us to hurry, but I'm hurrying anyway. It's not like I said. It's not like we're taking a coffee break before we head out.
Anybody from the?
Hi, everybody. Hi, this is Tim Moore. I apologize. My computer died in the middle of my comment before. I apologize about that. And I did just hear Devin's comment about expedited tows. I'd be really curious to hear some of our agencies again, but I'll leave that to the chair to maybe invite some comment on that.
Thanks, Tim. Anybody from any of the agencies have any comment?
This is Francis from Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. I'll comment on that, and I'll also comment on the use of the hazard. I don't know if it was the sheriff's office that has been using hazard or not, but it's something we have tried to impress on our deputies not to use, because they think using the word hazard on a traffic crash that's blocking a road will mean that the tower will get there quicker. So I'm trying to dispel that rumor. But we have instructed them, actually, if it is something that's blocking an intersection, to try to add notes and also to use the expedite, so that the towers do know that it's more than just a crashed vehicle on the side of the road. It's a matter of trying to make sure that, you know, they're concerned that the tower doesn't necessarily know that this is blocking an intersection. And we had at one of our very busy intersections, our deputies holding traffic for 3 hours one time while they're waiting for a response from a tower. And I think that's why they want to try to start using expedite to encourage the towers to get there faster. I understand what you're saying, that the towers are going to get there as quickly as possible, but I do think that there's a difference between a vehicle crashed on the side of the road and one that's blocking 223 in Halsey.
Thank you.
Garrett?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it sounds to me like we're not necessarily talking about the speed with which you get to the scene as it is more so about priority. Like, does the expedite somehow convey that, whether it's Speeds or Northwestern or Gerlach, that, you know, in terms of prioritization, that this needs to go to the top of the queue, and that it's not about, you know, unsafe driving practices to get there, but it's that you need to consider this more important than that. And I'm not sure how exactly that is or isn't conveyed through the software, but I'm just kind of wondering if that was the original intent of even having that status. And if it's not expedite, is it something else that actually can convey that status to essentially communicate that one thing is more important than another?
Devin.
As a tower, whether you call for a blocked driveway or an accident on the side of the road or a hazard tow for an arrest or an accident and you know, blocking Interstate 84, with that 20-minute or even a 30-minute response time, I can't put that call behind anything. If I accept it, it's because I have a driver available right now. And I guess I'd ask Clark or Donnie if you guys are any different, but if you don't have an available driver right now to leave right now, it's not like you accept it and go, oh, I'm going to go do this disabled motorist first and now go do this one. It's like, no, I go right now. So it really doesn't change my mindset. You know, we go as quickly as we can the minute we accept the call. And sometimes, unfortunately, it takes a long time, and I hope it wasn't us that it took 3 hours to go to. It might have been, but we would normally just pass that call. If it was going to take us that long, we'd just say, I can't get there in my 20 minutes. I'm not going to do it, or I'm unable to do it in the time allotted.
Clark?
I understand where Devin's coming from. To me, if it's an urgency call, the expedite tells me as a company that if I have A, B, C drivers and I got one going to a blocking driveway, I would route him to the expedite. Maybe it's not the word that Dev is looking for, but I would want to know from whatever agency is sending me the call. I would want them to know, let me know, hey, this one is a priority. I need you to respond here. And I don't know what kind of word you want to use. If you don't like expedite, that just tells me, and I understand what Devin say. I don't like my drivers driving down the shoulder, turn lights on. I don't like to. We will get there as quick as we can. But if I know you want that call done before the blocking the driveway, maybe I've already dispatched a driver to that one. I can pull him off and move him to call to get there quicker. That's what I like to know. I like to know if it's an expedite to me. That means I'm going to try to find if there's a driver that's closer that's already on a call. Maybe I can route him that way. And Devin's right. If I have a driver that's free, yes, I'm going to send him right away. But this just gives me more of an opportunity to think about maybe routing somebody else there because it is called expedite or whatever word you want to use to get us there quicker. That's my.
This is Jeff from MoDOT again. Hey, I listened to what Clark was saying. I think a definition of what expedite would mean to each individual agency is probably important because I could imagine, and I would poll my guys, which I can easily do, and ask them, do they use the term expedite? And if so, what does it mean to each one of them individually? Because using Clark's example, I mean, that's a perfect example, is if for some reason we request a tow, which obviously, you know, highway crashes and incidents on the highway are pretty important. And we all know how they can booger up the entire city. I'm wondering if in that context, that's what expedite was meant for is like you said, if you have a lower priority call, this now ramps it up to say this call that may have been a fender bender on the highway has now become a 3, 4, 5 vehicle or a rollover or something along those lines. That in terms of the word expedite means it's higher importance, higher priority. That might be the context it was meant in, at least speaking from my aspect for my incident responders on the highway. But what I would like to do is poll my guys and just kind of pose a question to them. Do you or have you ever used expedite with the towers? And if so, what is your definition of when you would use it? And that way I have a better understanding so I can help solve that question that you guys are having is should we eliminate it or should we just define it better?
Anybody else out there have any comments? Devin, did you get all your questions answered on that?
I guess I'm just curious on that block driveway that I just pulled my driver off of. Do I now get an additional 20 minutes to go to that one? Or do I get in trouble for now promising to be there in 20 minutes to that parking enforcement person, and now I'm not going to be there in 20 minutes?
Yeah, Tim, got any comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I might recommend that we can push an action item maybe out to our law enforcement and maybe include ODOT as well in that to ask staff how they use the expedited language. This is a holdover from the old contract, and I think it functioned a little bit differently in Tow Desk. It doesn't we don't have if I'm mistaken, please correct me, but we don't really have a function in auto return that's like flagging something as expedited, but it can be put in a note or something like that and request, expedited, speedy, high priority, something like that. And when those things are in there, obviously the tower is going to feel some pressure to get there quicker. And so I think that Devin's point is really valid and important. We don't want to be lacking on certain services, to go to a call that maybe isn't a bigger priority, and I think that was sort of illustrated in some of the sort of stories. It's like sometimes it's a car accident, but it's not necessarily like, to go back to a different topic, a hazard, or it's not necessarily a priority to get to. But if it's blocking roads, if we have, highways are blocked, main thoroughfares are blocked, multiple cars, I think there is some validity to prioritizing those things. to Devin's point, would he get in trouble, or would his driver or his company get in trouble or sanctioned for that? I think not. I think it would be very unreasonable for us to do that. And that all being said, I think it's very important for us to take this subject seriously and consider it in the new contract as we're finalizing that document and start seeking solicitation for that. I have some thoughts, and I'd be happy to kind of talk about them probably offline. We've only got a couple minutes left, so I don't want to like railroad this whole meeting, but maybe we consider like a closest truck model. So we have GPS capability with auto return. If we have a multiple car, highway, roads blocked situation, maybe we can have some kind of trigger that says this is, you know, to use the word expedited, this is an expedited tow, and we're instead of going through the rotation or using the district, you know, setup that we have, we just go to the closest truck model and we say closest available truck. We're sending this to you, and you know, it's an idea. I'm happy to consider other ideas. I think, you know, Devin just said let's get rid of it because obviously we're always going to do our best to get there as quickly as possible. You know, that's something to consider as well. But I do want to say that I don't think it would be reasonable for a company to be sanctioned for not meeting a time frame on a, again, going back to the example, a block driveway when requested to respond to a serious expedited situation that may be essentially life or death or just inconveniencing a whole lot more people than the one person with a block driveway.
Mark, you put in the chat, conduct a survey. Can you elaborate on those comments?
All I was getting at, I was, you know, listening what Todd was saying that he was going to talk to some of his folks over there. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't Todd. Who it was?
It was me, Jeff from ODOT.
It was Jeff.
Yeah, maybe we can work together, just put out a survey and send it out there and get some feedback from everybody that's using that term and what it means to them. Just throwing out ideas for the committee. We can put that together internally if you guys decide to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Mark, is that something you could do?
Yeah, you give us the questions and we can put together the survey and we can get it out there, get the link out there for you all to share.
So Mark, do you want someone to give you questions related to this?
Yeah, just send them over to Tim and Sheila, which questions you want on the survey and what options for the response. And then we have folks in-house that can put that together on a Survey Monkey. And then we would share the link back with the committee for them to share with whoever they feel they want to collect feedback from. And then we'll collect all those results and share them back out.
And Mark, when would you like those questions?
You know, I think that we have some time before the next meeting, but you know, within the next couple of weeks, it'd be nice to get them over to our team. That's something we could probably put together fairly quick and put it out there for a couple of weeks and have the results back in for the next meeting.
Donnie, is that how you would like to proceed?
Yes.
All right, so just to restate what Mark said, if you could send him your questions in the next couple of weeks, and from there, his team will create a survey, and that's a survey link. And I'm assuming Mark will send me that link that I send out to the committee, and you will forward out to your network. And I'll have a deadline of 2 weeks to complete the survey, and the data will go directly to PBOT. Any questions on that? And then we'll discuss it in the next meeting in 2 months. Okay, I'm seeing some, Jeff, folks are putting questions in the chat and we're almost at time. If you have questions before we end, you can come off mute and ask your questions for committee members. All right, no one's coming off mute. Donnie, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, so that's all the topics. I will remind everybody that if you want to have a topic spoke about in these meetings, you need to submit. And then I would like to throw this question out to the board members. Because it's been so long since we've had these meetings, it seems like we have a lot of stuff to go over. And I want to throw out the possibilities of maybe going to a monthly meeting, maybe here in the beginning, to try to get some of this stuff ironed out. I know that schedules are pretty tight with everybody, but there's a lot of important stuff here to discuss on all sides of the fence. So I want to throw that out there and see if anybody has objection to that. Mark, you have any thoughts on that?
No, I don't have any thoughts or concerns. So totally up to the board. We just have to make sure we can, sometimes when we do monthly meetings, not everybody can show up. And so if we don't have a quorum, it ends up being a waste of time. But if this committee can commit to being there, I'm sure between me and Tim and Tracy and Camarina and Sheila, we can work it out.
And Donnie, and you would like to meet in November, is that correct?
Correct. Does anybody have objection to that? So can we put a date together in November? Tracy?
Yes, Mark and Tim, would it be the same how we're meeting now? So we're meeting on the 4th Tuesday. Would we stay with that, or does that work for your schedule?
It works for me. Tim, how do you look?
I believe that the 4th Tuesday should be fine. Let me just take a peek real quick at the calendar. November 4th Tuesday puts us at the 24th.
It would be the 22nd.
22nd. And the 24th is Thanksgiving, right?
Yep.
Right.
I think I could make that meeting. I believe I will be coming back from vacation on that day. So if it was at this time, I will have to confirm that. But I could also do the 5th Tuesday of that month if that's something that we could consider.
That works for me as well. So
The 29th?
The 29th, yeah.
I think that makes more sense. A lot of people Thanksgiving that week. So why don't we have the 29th?
Okay.
All right, I'll send out that meeting invite today.
Thanks, Tracy.
All right, Donnie, we are at 5:02. We're over time. So any final comments or questions?
Nope. Like I said, please submit your topics. And I think that's it for today. I appreciate everybody coming and all your comments. Anybody out there, give me a motion to adjourn?
You don't need a motion. You can just end.
Oh, okay.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.